Hi, today is a special video. It's a collaboration with Mariam. You know her, she's my friend. She's one of my favorite YouTubers to watch because we have so many things in common. I will leave the link of her channel down below in the description box. I believe you will find her content addictive. She's smart, she is funny, and she's the Pat McGrath expert on YouTube. She has one of the biggest Pat McGrath collections. She buys almost everything from Pat. I think we started from different tastes, but nowadays we are kind of converging towards the same thing. I watched her since I think 2017. I ran into her channel because I was searching for something. I don't know, maybe Urban Decay palette. Something like that. I think it was before she got to know Pat McGrath even. And right now we have a totally similar taste. And we are kind of complementary at the same time because I'm 1 or 2 tones lighter than her and cooler in undertone. So things that look amazing on her, on me look maybe orange. But in common, we have critical thinking, and it may be also because we have this scientific background, both of us. I like how nerd we are when it comes to formulas, and therefore we decided to make a video, a collab video, around the theme that is actually ranking luxury eyeshadow formulas. Each one of us will develop in her own way. So the way I will develop this is the following. I will put here all the eyeshadows. We will go through the formulas, categorize them, and then I will do the ranking. Okay, let's start. I will put these because there are some of my favorite formulas and I will consider Viseart also in this ranking, although this is a makeup artist brand. And Pat McGrath, a few Pat McGrath for the reason will be clear during my exposition. So let's try to rearrange things and divide it by formulas. And then I'll do the ranking. So I will divide first by brand, and then I will try to group them in terms of formula. This Suqqu palette is represented by this one, is the same formula. This was the first formula I came across when I started purchasing Suqqu. So they are the same thing. I will, just for space reasons, I will remove this one. Okay, I have all the different types of eyeshadows here. So of course this is not my collection. The majority of my collection is Suqqu, and I have a lot of Tom Ford, of course, not only these 4 quads, but much more. But these are kind of representatives of my extensive luxury collection. A lot of things are new. This year, I realized I purchased, of course, the Pat McGrath, but Dior. I purchased some Tom Ford. I purchased a lot of Chanel, 3 quads by Chanel, and one is coming, the holiday one. Yves Saint Laurent. So I purchased Hermès. I purchased Prada, Cle de Peau, the new Cle de Peau ones. So this year was definitely the year of eyeshadows where I explored different brands. And what is my conclusion? Of course, I have a passion, is my hobby, but in order to be aware of the formula, you can also think beforehand, before purchasing. Identify your favorite formulas across the brands so you don't have to spend money on formulas that you don't love. And I will tell you how to do that. All these things can be categorized in types of formula. As you can see, most of these are either made in Italy or made in Japan. There's, I think, only Valentino that is made in France. But the other things are mainly made in Italy, with the exceptions of Cle de Peau, Viseart, and Suqqu. And actually, these share the same type of formula, that is liquid slurred formula. Apparently, there's a liquid medium when these eyeshadows is produced as liquid, but it's true also for the baked gelée, maybe for other things. But it's just not that you press the powder. You have a kind of cream to powder finish, but is more powdery than cream. It's very fine. Cle de Peau, Viseart, and Suqqu. So I can put them all together. Then we have different finishes inside this formula, this type of formula, because we have the glittery ones, we have the matte ones. Yeah, it's difficult. Should I classify them in mattes, glitters? I wouldn't do that, because otherwise we are kind of exploding into the categorization, and I don't want to be a slave of that. Sorry, I forgot the Lunasol. Lunasol can be also included into that liquid slurred formula, Japanese as well. Is another luxury brand that's quite niche. It's not available even in Western shops. It's not like Suqqu that you can purchase at Selfridges, Harrods, Liberty London, so all UK, but there are Western websites. These ones by Lunasol, I have to import them from Japan. Chanel and Dior. Now, let's start with Dior. When it comes to Dior, there are, I would say, three types of formulas. There's no a unique, specific Dior formula. This is an example of baked gelée formula. This is the Nightbird, was a limited edition. And this is baked gelée. It's a formula that is common among luxury brands. I believe it's produced in the same place, and I believe it's the same thing across the brands, because the brand simply pay a lab that is in Italy to produce, their color story with this formula. I admit this. If I was blind and I had to recognize the brand behind a certain type of watch, I wouldn't be able to distinguish. And pay attention that also for this Christmas collection, the formula is baked gelée. If people says, okay, it's the new reformulated formula, it's wrong, because this is baked gelée. There's something else. It's not the reformulated Dior, okay? And so we have baked gelée from Dior. We have baked gelée from Chantecaille. Do you remember the luminescent eye shades? These are great, but I only kept this one. The other ones were kind of redundant and ridiculously expensive. And also impractical because they are singles, okay? Then there's the baked gelée by Chanel. I will find one. For example, this one. This is the Mediterranean quad. How do you recognize that? You have to get your eyes trained to do so. They don't have pen, they're raised. But at the same time, Chanel also has other formulas without pen. This is different because this is baked but not baked gelée, and this also doesn't have pen, while this one is baked gelée. The difference is that this, how can I say, is baked but not gel to powder, while this one is gel to powder. So sticking to baked gelée, there's also Chanel that makes baked gelée formulas. For example, the one from the holiday collection is also baked gelée. Sticking to baked gelée, that's the typical luxury formula. We have baked gelée from Tom Ford. So I have this one and this one. These are just two examples. This is my favorite from Tom Ford. So most of my Tom Ford palettes have this formula, baked gelée. Now Tom Ford has this TF, and before they didn't have the TF. So it's the same formula. Bobbi Brown Luxe eyeshadows also have the same baked gelée formula. Same category here. Guerlain also, their permanent quads are made with this formula. This is an example. Imperial Moon. and again, Baked Gelée. Charlotte Tilbury. Now, this is an hybrid. I will put in different categories because this palette, by the way, I have it on sale, so check my Vinted. It's on my Vinted. This is an hybrid because there's one Baked Gelée shade, that is the one that I lightly used, and the other ones that are the standard powder formula by Charlotte Tilbury. So I'll put in different category, but there are also some quads that were full of Baked Gelée shades by Charlotte Tilbury. And as far as I know, this is the formula that has the highest cost to be produced. So if you have something that is Baked Gelée, yeah, you're not paying just for the brand. And I think that also, I mean, the margins are also the reason why Charlotte also introduced this hybrid things. Sisley, this is an example of a quad. This is also my Vinted, just because it's redundant, but I love this. Sisley nowadays has singles that are all Baked Gelée, and this is an amazing formula because it's smooth. We will go through this distinction. Then there's the standard powder. Standard powder, we have old school Tom Ford. It has two glitters that they were called the Celestial. Also, Nabla still has this finish, and also Charlotte Tilbury still has it. And then we have the standard powder formula by Tom Ford. So I will put standard powder in this category together with Charlotte Tilbury because three of the shades, I've seen it already, are standard powders. Also Olivia Palermo. This is also on my Vinted because it's heavy. It's amazing, but it's heavy. It's too heavy. I purchased this because of this one, but it pulls a bit too warm for me. It has a kind of a reddish undertone in the same vein of Victoria Beckham Mink single pot. I wanted it a bit more gray instead of brown. But this is, you know, the standard powder formula, very high quality, but not cream, not baked. So it's in this category, made in Italy as well. Then we have the baked formula, so baked but not Baked Gelée, and this is the category. Okay, I think this is Baked Gelée as well. You see the Chanel Tweed Quad, but these are two examples. I have three of them of those baked shades by Chanel. This is a unique formula because it's not the usual Tisse formula. The Tisse formula is another baked formula by Chanel. I had Tisse Vendôme, but I decluttered it because it was redundant. I'm not fond of the Tisse formula by Chanel, but this is another thing because it is a baked formula, but it's emollient. It has a shiny quality. I talked extensively about in this video here that you may want to check. It's a detailed video about this formula, but this is just to say is a special type of formula that is not Tisse, the usual Tisse formula by Chanel. And in fact, this is from the Byzance collection, and they're called Parure Cristal, and then I have also Parure Baroque. This is a representative of the new baked formula by Chanel that is great. And baked formula are also these two by Pat McGrath that I wanted to compare to this formula here. That's why I included this Pat McGrath here. Standard powder formula is also Chantecaille. These quads are nothing else than standard powder formula. Standard powder formula, I want to include this one. This, as I said, is a stretch because Viseart is not luxury, but I want to include for reference. I will tell you something about these. And Hermès. Hermès also is a standard powder, so it's included here. I mean, it is not cream to powder, it is not Baked Gelée, it is standard powder, powder pressed in a pan. In the baked formula, there's also the old Dior. I purchased this year because of the reformulation. So this is the old formula before the reformulation. I think there are pens here, but is baked formula, but not baked gelée. And this has been reformulated. So do not confuse, please, the baked gelée, so the gel to powder formula. That is another thing, and every now and then pops up. Do not confuse the gel to powder with the baked formula, okay? They are different things, even if they are made by Dior. So there's no Dior formula. There's a baked gelée by Dior, gel to powder, and there's the normal baked by Dior. I'm glad I picked them up because they are great, although I should use them more. So these are in the baked category, baked but not baked gelée. Finally, we have the cream to powder. They do not have pen. Okay, this is more powdery than the other cream to powder. This type of formula is so fine that it reminds me the most of this liquid slurred formula that is the Japanese. This is made in Italy. So another cream to powder formula, and this is definitely more creamy in the sense that more silicone, is this one by Tom Ford. This is definitely, it gives me the same vibe of this, but of Yves Saint Laurent, but thicker. It's very smooth and shiny. It's like cream. It gives that creamy feeling, but it's not too emollient or wet looking. Once on the skin is more of a powder finish. So the final categorization, we have standard powder, cream to powder, slurred Japanese type of formula of powders, baked formula, and baked gelée. I don't like the lightning right now because I have the sun in front of me, and that makes eventual swatches so bad looking. You won't see anything with all this light. So I would like to move to the usual gray Pouf, where I can sit comfortable and talk about different formulas with the ranking. Okay, this is more or less the usual setting, with my gray Pouf, where I do my video usually. To recap the different finishes, we have standard powders here, then we have cream to powders here. The Byredo belongs to this group. Then we have the baked powders here, baked, not baked gelée. The baked gelée is there, and here we have the slurred. The ranking. I would rank these from 5 to 1, and then for each category, I will motivate my ranking. At last position, number 5, there are my standard powders. That doesn't mean that I don't buy these anymore or I don't like them. The problem is that if I pay for luxury, I would like something that gives me an experience. All the other formulas here are much more special. So that's why when I want to stay in this category, I tend to go to Viseart. This is the only Charlotte Tilbury quad that I'm left with, and I also would like to declutter it. I'm not fond of these Western standard formulas because if I have to pay premium prices, yes, of course, I have beautiful packaging, but I prefer other formulas if I go into luxury. The experience with these standard powders is inferior compared to the experience that I enjoy with other type of formulas. That's why it's ranked the lowest. But at the same time, there are some occasions where this type of formula is necessary. This formula is necessary when I want a long-lasting makeup without putting a lot of primers or thinking too much. Viseart makes my favorite mattes. So my favorite mattes belong to this type of classification of standard powders. And these other ones are special in their way because for example, this Tom Ford that I also am going to declutter, the powders are very smooth, but the specialty is in the glitters in this particular palette. The only palette by Tom Ford that I would like to buy is the Metal Lust, but that has gone because it was a limited edition. But it was the only occasion where I wanted to purchase a Tom Ford palette in the standard formula. Otherwise, I think that other formulas are to be preferred by Tom Ford because the experience is more luxury. We can split the hair here, but the reality is it's difficult to differentiate among these. Hermès, for example, tend not to overblend. The disadvantage of Viseart is that they overblend. But other than that, once on the eyes, I bet you won't be able, if you do a blind test, you won't be able to recognize the difference among these. And therefore, I would go for Viseart. I like the mattes. I'm not fond of the shimmers. So shimmers in this formula that is, pressed powder are still not my favorite. Are nice, but I enjoy other formulas more. It's not worth for me to buy luxury. I have an extensive review also of this one. With this formula, they may curate the ingredients. For example, Hermès has a special ingredients. It's talc free. They say the percentage of natural origin, whatever. They are long lasting. Yeah, they are curated. I'm not saying that these are the same as, lower price brands. This by Chantecaille is another miss. I won't declutter it because I love a few colors here that are these. This is a duochrome and also this shade is great. So they're great, but it's standard powder. It's not particularly smooth. It shows all the texture. It's nothing special. My resolution was not to buy other quads like this by Chantecaille, but I would rather go for, the Baked Gelée formula by Chantecaille. It's overpriced. Chantecaille is overpriced, especially with this type of formula. The reason why I'm keeping a few of these is either because they are Viseart mattes, all the Viseart mattes are included in this category and are perfect because they are longer lasting I have in my collection. I can forget primer and I will still have mattes that last all day. So the quality is there. If I keep something in this category from luxury brand like this, that is a keeper, is because the colors are very nice colors I want to keep in my collection. But regarding the formula, it's nothing that justifies the luxury price tag.